I'll share a few quotes and tell me if you can identify the theme underlying it. If you're going through hell, keep going. The pain is the path. You can't manage the wind, but you can adjust the sails. There's a ton of these that are said by very famous people, and they all refer to resilience. What is resilience? Very simply put, it's the learned ability to take in perspective on a setback, evaluate options, and figure out paths ahead. When our brain is resilient, it rewires to have a stronger connection between the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision making and the sort of executive function of the brain, and the amygdala, which is the emotional part. So when a crisis hits, our first response from the amygdala is the sympathetic nervous system and the fight, flight, freeze response. Unless these two are connected well, because we've trained ourselves to be resilient, we could stay in that frozen state or flight state or fight state. Now, the shift in response, saying, okay, the crisis is now here, what do we do next, is what leads to resilience. So the learned skill of optimism is also essential to resilience. You could maybe read up work on positive psychology, which talks about these concepts, also learned helplessness, learned optimism, and so on. The higher the optimism, the better the chances of resilience. Another socio-cultural element that plays a part is the idea of a locus of control. So we either have a higher internal locus of control or an external locus of control. If I have higher external locus of control, I tend to think when something happens that these things happen to me. I have less luck. My parents didn't set me up. So external reasons are why things happen to me. If I have a higher internal locus of control, I tend to say I might not have control over the circumstances, but I can decide what my response should be. Right? Finally, another way to look at this, and this is one of my go-to frameworks, is called the Stockdale paradox. It comes from Jim Collins's book Good to Great, and it has a super inspiring backstory. So the name gives it away. It's a paradox, and therefore two opposing beliefs exist in your mind when this thinking gets activated. And the two are: one, have the discipline and the courage to fully look at the situation with all its complexity and all its bleakness, right? Face it fully. And the second is have the faith that I will prevail in the end. I'm reminded of a difficult situation that I was in 15 years ago. I started working with a small company, and within a couple of months, they said lack of funds and laid off a bunch of people without any advance warning. I was one of them. I was in shock. I was scared. I was lost. I was a bunch of things. Luckily, I also had a very wise friend who allowed me to go through those emotions and help me go through the Sarah cycle of processing change, and then set me off on the path of what does it look like to think I will prevail. So I reached out to a former boss who got me onto a short-term gig. Then I reached out to somebody that I had always wanted to work with. That set me on a path that was high risk to start with, but really set the direction for the next 10 years of my work life. So I'm reminded of a quote: everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So that's resilience for you, and you can also assess where you are on your own resilience journey. You could look inward, you can look at how swiftly do you bounce back, you could take an online test. There are various ways to look at where am I now. And if you feel your resilience could use a boost, there are many ways to build it. I've shared a few, but it does require you to pause amid crisis and evaluate what you want to do differently from what you've done in the past. And post-crisis, assess again, was the outcome different? Were my relationships different? Was my energy different? What changed? What ought to change? And so on. So go ahead, begin to build more resilience that will for sure come back and serve you very well.